Hello. So in this video, we're going to be talking about Tadeusz Borowski's short story, This Way for the Gas, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm reading this out of the Norton Anthology of World Literature, and according to the Norton editors, Borowski was a really kind of interesting guy. He was a victim of the Holocaust. He survived a number of concentration camps. He wasn't Jewish, he wasn't gay, he wasn't a communist, he wasn't any of the sort of main things that identity categories or groups that tended to be swept up by the Nazis. His crime basically was that he published a book of poetry in Polish, which was forbidden. So Borowski and his fiancée were both sent to Auschwitz-Birkenau and a few other concentration camps over the period of their detention. Once he was liberated from the camps, Borowski became one of the most straightforward, realistic writers of really semi-autobiographical fiction about the experience of the Nazi death camps. He also apparently became an enthusiastic supporter of Soviet Poland until he learned of Soviet concentration camps, prison camps, gulags, etc., at which point he had a crisis of conscience, it seems, because he had returned. It seems that he had felt that he returned to, and it's worth mentioning, one of the ways he survived the Nazi concentration camps was by essentially working in the hospital. And so Borowski apparently felt that he had sort of returned to supporting this evil system of concentration camps, detention, political punishment, etc., etc. And so in 1951, he took his own life. He killed himself with gas. I imagine that he was well aware of the irony of having escaped Xylon B in the concentration camps, only to subsequently take his own life with gas. But his writings about life in the concentration camps are incredibly important testaments to the horrific brutality and inhumanity of the Nazi system. And it's worth mentioning, this is probably especially worth returning to this now, considering that the US and several other countries seem to be increasingly moving toward fascism, which is very, very concerning. And so reading works like Borowski's This Way for the Gas, ladies and gentlemen, probably is something that we should be doing a lot more of. So, the one of the things about Borowski's fiction, again, semi-autobiographical fiction, like this is not made up, this is not fantasy, this is slightly modified versions of things that he actually experienced. And he is the inspiration for the protagonist or the speaker of this short story. It's a semi-fictionalized version of himself. But the thing that people found so shocking about it in the 40s and into the 50s, Borowski obviously died in 51, but obviously people continued reading his work. The thing that people found so startling about it was how stark and realistic the depictions are. It is not there's no romanticization here. And what in this case, what I mean by romanticization would be something along the lines of heroes and villains. The suffering of the prisoners and the inhumanity of the guards, the angelic on the one side, the demonic on the other. No, Borowski is not interested in that. What he is interested in is everyone is made evil by the concentration camp system. So we get this sort of immediate sense of dehumanization right from the first paragraph of this short story, which I'm going to read to you now. All of us walk around naked. The delousing is over and our striped suits are back over the tanks, from the tanks of Cyclone B solution, an efficient killer of lice in clothing and of men in gas chambers. Only the inmates in the blocks cut off from ours by the Spanish goats still have nothing to wear. But all the same, all of us walk around naked. The heat is unbearable. The camp has been sealed off tight. Not a single prisoner, not one solitary louse can sneak through the gate. The labor commandos have stopped working. All day, thousands of naked men shuffle up and down the roads, cluster around the squares, or lie against the walls and on top of the roofs. We've been sleeping on plain boards since our mattresses and blankets are still being disinfected. From the rear blockhouses, we have a view of the FKL, Frauenkonzentrationlager. There, too, the delousing is in full swing. That, by the way, is the female concentration camp. 28,000 women have been stripped naked and driven out of the barracks. Now they swarm around the large yard between the blockhouses. And this sense of dehumanization carries on, and it's quite a central thing. In particular, the Greeks in this camp seem to come in for a lot of dehumanization from Borowski's narrator. So the narrator and his French friend Henri go out basically to unload. They get onto this labor detail. Henri seems to have done this regularly, but for the fictional Tadeusz, this is his first time, it seems, doing this kind of work. Basically, they have trains of prisoners coming in, and they have to, along with SS guards, although the prisoners do the majority of the actual labor, they have to get all of the people off of the trains as quickly and efficiently as possible, and they have to take all of their possessions. They have to take off their clothes, not necessarily all of their clothes, but like jackets, coats, hats, scarves, things like that. And then they have to sort through the material. So everything like gold, jewels, valuables of any kind goes to the SS men. It goes to the Reich, to the German state. And I mean, we know, of course, that the Nazis plundered untold amounts of wealth from Europe, basically just through blatant theft. And then they also sort of go through the food, and any food that is found, they get to take back to the camp, and that is how the camp sort of feeds itself. But while they're waiting for this first train, these Greeks find some moldy bread and sardines, basically by the side of the train tracks. And the narrator says here, around us sit the Greeks, their jaws working greedily like huge human insects. They munch on stale lumps of bread. They are restless, wondering what will happen next. So again, that comparison to human insects is very telling in terms of how not just the Nazis, but even the prisoners themselves, dehumanized by this system, come to see other prisoners, right? They are no longer human beings. They are no longer fellow sufferers. They are animals. And this is one of the things that's really central to this short story, is that the narrator is not an admirable figure, right? He's not somebody who is bravely resisting the Nazis or even sort of trying to be as kind as possible, someone who's basically compassionate and is suffering along with these people. He has become part of the mechanism that drives the suffering, and that bleeds into his perspective. And that sense builds over the course of the story. So we get the first description of when a train load of prisoners comes in. And in particular, there's this one bit that I think is really, really important. Borowski notes that there's one type of charity that's permitted to these people, the vast majority of whom are going straight to their deaths. So the passage I'm going to read is longer than that, but I think that's an important note. The bolts crack, the doors fall open. A wave of fresh air rushes inside the train. People, inhumanly crammed, buried under incredible heaps of luggage, suitcases, trunks, packages, crates, bundles of every description, everything that had been their past and was to start their future. Monstrously squeezed together, they have fainted from heat, suffocated, crushed one another. Now they push toward the open doors, breathing like fish cast out on the sand. Attention, out and take your luggage with you. Take out everything. Pile all your stuff near the exits. Yes, your coats too. It's summer. March to the left. Understand? Sir, what's going to happen to us? They jump from the train onto the gravel, anxious, worn out. Where are you people from? Sosnowiec Bedsin. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. I'm sorry, Polish is a difficult language. Sir, what's going to happen to us? They repeat the question, stubbornly gazing into our tired eyes. I don't know. I don't understand Polish. Borowski, of course, was Polish. It is the camp law. People going to their death must be deceived to the very end. This is the only permissible form of charity. The heat is tremendous. The sun hangs directly over our heads. The white-hot sun quivers, the air vibrates, an occasional breeze feels like a sizzling blast from a furnace. Our lips are parched. The mouth fills with the salty taste of blood. The body is weak and heavy from lying in the sun. Water? A huge multicolored wave of people loaded down with luggage pours from the train like a blind, mad river trying to find a new bed. But before they have a chance to recover, before they can draw a breath of fresh air and look at the sky, bundles are snatched from their hands, coats ripped off their backs, their purses and umbrellas taken away. But please, sir, it's for the sun. I cannot. Verboten, one of us barks through clenched teeth. There's an SS man standing behind your back, calm, efficient, watchful. Mein Herrenschaft, this way, ladies and gentlemen. Try not to throw your things around, please. Show some goodwill, he says courteously, his relentless hands playing with the slender whip. So again, this notion of the only form of charity that you can give to the people being brought into the death camp is to not tell them that they're going to their death until the very last moment. It's a striking concept, right? It's horrific. Obviously horrific, but it also establishes the callous and brutal efficiency of this system. But here's probably the part of this story that I find the most fascinating. Tadeusz, they have to collect up all of these dead babies because infants have died in these train cars, and then their bodies have generally been abandoned as people were being rushed off with their possessions. And so the prisoners have to collect up these dead babies, and it says that it says here, we carry them out like chickens, holding several in each hand. And they are ordered by the SS to give these babies to the women who have been unloaded, and these women are initially reluctant to take them. It's only when the SS man threatens to shoot them that this older woman comes up. And what she says, what it says here, she starts out with dialogue. "You mustn't shoot. I'll carry them." A tall gray-haired woman takes the little corpses out of my hand and, for an instant, gazes straight into my eyes. "My poor boy," she whispers and smiles at me. Then she walks away, staggering along the path. I lean against the side of the train. I'm terribly tired. Someone pulls at my sleeve. "En avant, to the rails, come on." I look up, but the face swims before my eyes, dissolves huge and transparent, melts into the motionless trees and the sea of people. I blink rapidly. "Henri." "Listen, Henri, are we good people?" "That's stupid. Why do you ask?" "You see, my friend, I don't know why, but I'm furious, simply furious with these people. Furious because I must be here because of them. I feel no pity. I'm not sorry that they're going to the gas chamber. Damn them all. I could throw myself at them, beat them with my fists. It must be pathological. I just can't understand. On the contrary, it is natural, predictable, calculated. The ramp exhausts you, you rebel, and the easiest way to relieve your hate is to turn against someone weaker. Why, I'd even call it healthy. It's simply logic, compris?" And I think that's really the striking part of this for me. And I think that's probably the thing that many readers found so unsettling about Borowski's fiction, is that the prisoners are not innocent sufferers. Or they're not just innocent sufferers. They are that on some level, but they're also not just dehumanized by the camp in the sense of being reduced to animals. They're dehumanized in the sense of losing their humaneness. That sense of being a human being that leads us to have compassion for the suffering, that leads us to have sympathy and to want to say, no, I don't endorse this person's suffering. I reject this. That is lost in the camps.